Good morning, Signature, and welcome to the sales meeting for April 6th, 2021.
I feel like I'm out in the middle of nowhere here.
You're kind of out in the middle of nowhere.
Get into the island. Get on the island.
We're a little bit of a disaster today because we don't have Chris here with his list, so we've created a list, and we're going to try to go through all this stuff. So he's in
How did that happen?
Maybe we'll all get to say something then.
I know, right?
We should just make fun of Chris all day.
Let's do it.
So,
I think that
That'll be a
will
whole nother
naturally
show.
happen.
It'll
so
naturally
we don't even need to work on that.
Chris, we love you.
No, we
Kind
don't. Not
of.
really. Sort of.
All right, so we had a great week last week. If you don't know, if you hadn't followed us on Facebook or anything else, you wouldn't know that the Academy happened. We had about 36 people through the Academy. We had tremendous numbers. We had they made 1,849 contacts.
Wow.
That means they talked to people. 1,849 people heard the name Signature and actually got asked if they planned on moving this last week, which generated 170 leads.
Whew.
170 leads in 4 days of prospecting.
That would have cost a lot of money on Zillow.
Could have,
So
right?
170 people said, yeah, I might be
Sometime between now and the end of the year, I plan on moving.
Wow.
Okay, and then out of that also they generated 21 actual listing appointments, and which is huge. And then they already took their first listing. I think it was Saturday, the day after the Academy ended. Kathy went out and actually took the first listing from the class.
And can I just say, she's already written an offer herself on the listing that she took.
Wow.
So-
Double N.
So does that count as two deals in our?
Oh, you mean in the contest?
In our contest?
What is
Yeah,
this
what-
contest
hey,
you
what-
guys keep talking
Whatever
about?
you need, buddy. If you
Is that
need
yours?
it to be two sides, it's two sides. You're
No,
still
it's-
going to lose.
Kathy is Summerlin, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yes.
It doesn't matter.
Yes,
It doesn't
my
matter.
cat.
So this is what I love.
It's a little feisty up in here today.
One of the challenges after the Academy is we do 12 hours of prospecting during that period of time. And one of the challenges is that come Monday, a lot of people don't continue to prospect. So I love what you guys have done is throwing out the gauntlet basically and challenged each other, the offices, to see who can.
Yeah.
Is it take more listings or close more deals?
It's all of the above.
It's
All
all
the
of
above.
those.
Yeah.
And it's 90 days?
Yeah, for the second quarter.
I
New
thought it was just the
listings.
month of April.
No.
No,
second
Get
quarter.
it. Get with the
whole
program.
quarter.
You're
I
gonna
thought it was
slide
just-
away.
We got a
Month of
list to
April.
last, so why would our
List.
competition not go for 3 months?
So it's new listings,
New list, any kind of
closed
transaction.
transactions, or under contracts.
Yep,
Beautiful.
absolutely.
And what is it that what happens to the winner or the losers or?
They all make a bunch of money.
Yeah, well,
But you actually.
the agents,
The brokers.
the agents make all kinds of money.
Yes.
But for us, the losers have to go present lunch to
Serve
the other
lunch.
office and serve it, and wear stupid clothes.
I'm looking
Of course,
forward
I'll wear
to
one.
that.
I'll wear one of my. I just wear one of my shirts.
Yeah, we'll just wear something Tom provides for us. That'll be
So
fine.
this is an interesting contest because we're just taking the people that actually graduated the
Yep.
Academy and we're taking their numbers. So it's on these brokers to really help keep them motivated and keep them focused on generating more business. And now they have all the tools they can do it.
Yep.
So watch for the next Academy coming up soon. I haven't picked a date yet, but we'll be announcing it by next sales meeting. We'll give you the dates. So.
Is it like a month away? Is it the next quarter? Give us a general idea.
That was a big
So,
academy.
so the thing is, I'm there for the entire week, so it takes a little bit of commitment there. When I've got the commitment of the brokerage, I've got great support here. I've got the board, the president-elect stuff. So I got to find a gap in the schedule where I can commit an entire week. So I'm hoping that it will be within the next month and a half.
Oh, really?
Okay.
Nice.
So yeah, I'd like to try to get it so we're doing it at least once a quarter. But I think we can get some great momentum there and start to build a culture of people actually getting aggressive and looking for business. And in this market, it's the prime time to be looking for listings.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
if you're taking listings, you're almost guaranteed a
Yeah,
check,
you're,
right?
yeah.
Right.
So,
Who isn't selling the house nowadays?
right?
So you're saying it's just for the challenge is just for the people who attended the academy, but everybody is able to participate just to be part of maybe the momentum and maybe the camaraderie.
Oh yeah, if they want to come in and call and
And everyone
join
can
some-
come to
yeah.
lunch.
Yeah.
Oh, and lunch.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Why does everybody look at Tom? Is he gonna?
Because they figure I'm gonna lose.
I've already got an apron picked out for Tom. Don't worry.
Awesome. So anyway, it was a lot of fun there, and we're having a lot of fun with it now. But we've got a whole list of things that we want to talk about, and a lot of these things stem from issues that come up or questions that come up from you guys as agents. And so one of the things we want to keep this meeting interactive as well, even though it's virtual. If you have questions for any of us that you'd like us to discuss, go ahead and feel free to put that in the chat, and we'll get to those along with what we have here as well if there's time. And then the other thing is I was talking with Tom this morning, and one of the things we did in the live meetings is we did what was called buyer and seller needs.
Yep.
And we'd pass around the microphone and give you guys the opportunity to stand up and basically say, hey, I have a listing coming up over here, or I need a buyer over here. And so we want to try to bring that to the virtual side too. And so what we're proposing is that if you have a listing coming up, or you want us to promote one of your listings on the sales meeting, that through our real estate app, and if you're not on the app yet, we'll tell you how to get on there, that you message Beta by Monday at noon with maybe a picture and some details on the property, so we can put that together on the sales meeting as well and get you some extra exposure and maybe get some in-house deals going as well. So
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Good idea.
Because I mean, a house, we got to adapt, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we're adapting at the very end, right? Because COVID's almost over with, but what the heck? We're still trying to adapt.
Is it almost over?
I think so.
Is it?
I think
You talked to the
I think
governor?
we should be happy.
he's got his vaccine. It's over for
Yeah,
him.
it's- for me, it's all right.
Those
We're
are
traveling
big.
now.
Well, I think that I hope it's almost over for sure. And so we're really looking at the possibility of actually doing live meetings soon. Chris has been reaching out to all the agencies, made a commitment in the next 90 days to actually have a conversation with every single one of those signature agents. He's got a series of questions he's asking. One of the things that's come up most of the time, I think 85% of the people that he's talked to already have mentioned that they miss the live meetings. The other thing that they've mentioned is that they want to continue to have the opportunity to do the virtual as well. So
Yeah.
we will do the hybrid here soon, and so be watching for the dates. We're getting together, we're looking at the safety protocols, all that kind of stuff to try to figure out when the best time to start to bring you guys back in for the opportunity of seeing these live, but you're more than welcome to continue to watch them online too. So with that, let's we've got Shelly back on the table
The
today.
table,
That's
yes.
pretty nice. Usually
Excited
she
to
gets
be-
bumped off the edge. But we're glad to have her back. So let's turn it over to you and Prosperity Lending for your mortgage moment.
Awesome. Happy Tuesday, everyone. So I wanted to share the top 5 things that I've seen over the course of the last few weeks in helping our agents, our buyers agents, get their offers, our clients' offers accepted. The number one thing that I've seen is we need to get our buyers pre-approved. If you're just going out there with a pre-qualification, please encourage your clients and your lenders today to get the next step, which would be run credit, gather all of their documents. I like to call the documents the big 3. Pay stubs, W-2s or income docs, or tax returns, and your bank statements. 2 of the big 3 is what I call the big 3. The pre-approval process is not just to prepare us, obviously, to help you guys get out there and ensure that we can close it on time, but it's also so that we are ready the moment you have a fully executed contract for us to pull disclosures and then go right into an appraisal, which actually leads me to number 2. Understanding that your contingency timeframes start the moment that we get your actual contract. Send over your FERPA ASAP, which stands for your fully executed real estate purchase agreement, as soon as possible. I know you love ASAP.
I was wondering where you were going with the FEREP. I'm like, well, what?
Because
You're
for
freaking
us,
RPA.
Yeah.
So,
You're freaking
I got it
RPA.
right away. I
You
knew
did, right?
exactly what
Yeah.
you were saying.
You're hip.
because a lot of we're all anxious to get started on the file just as you are, and so that is the one piece that our appraisers need. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about some of that as well. But getting the fully executed purchase agreement to your lenders as soon as possible will help start the process as quickly as possible.
So can I just say, not to interrupt, but
Yeah.
if you're not sending the RPA to the lender, whether you represent the buyer or the seller, when you have a fully executed RPA, it should go to escrow to open escrow, and it should go to lender in the same email. Everyone should be tied in the same email, and it should be tied so that everybody gets it right from the very beginning.
Yeah, we would love that. You wouldn't believe how
It
many
should be a
take
standard
a
of
day
practice.
or 48 hours. So the sooner we can get it, the faster we can get it to closing. Communication is the other thing as well. So as far as getting pre-qualified, right now we are trying to maximize the amount of purchasing power for all of our clients. And so communicating what our HOA dues are when we are getting pre-qualified, but as well when you're looking at properties. I mean, truthfully, I have a client who is right at the cap of debt to income ratio. And so every home that he looks at, I want to make sure that they are able to move forward with. I don't want them getting excited about it and then come to find out, oh, the HOA due was just a little bit too high. They now have a fully executed contract. They've sent that over to us, and we are unfortunately over debt to income ratio. The other thing as well is cash to close. With respect to a lot of our appraisals and some of these bid over ask price, we need to make sure that our clients, is that how we say it, bid over ask?
Something like that.
We need to make sure that our clients have the funds to close in the event that they do have, that the appraisal comes in a little bit lower and they do have to make up that additional amount. And so having the communication with your lender is extremely important. Also, where the funds are going to be coming from. Some of our clients are pulling from 401k, from gift funds, different area mattresses, believe it or not, are still part of the equation. And so we just want to make sure that we are prepared for that cash to close. The contingency aspect as well. I know a lot of us are talking about appraisal waivers. Just want to remind you, the true appraisal waiver happens for conventional financing. We can actually do that ahead of a contract. If you'll just if you'll give us the address information, we can actually run that without it being a fully executed contract to let you know if we can actually get what we call a property inspection waiver. But it is only for conventional financing. And then the last thing that I have on here is to send us copy us on your offers or give us the listing agent's information. The one thing that I have noticed is that every phone call or when an offer is submitted, the first thing I want to do is reach out to our listing agents. Of course, I'm going to go over the fact that I have a full pre-approval. I have all of the client's documentation, the candidate themselves, if they've got great credit, good job history, whatever it may be. I want to make our part in strengthening our client so that we can have a successful transaction. Hopefully the listing agent feels confident with us as a lender to move forward, and we'll pass that information along to our seller. So those are the top 5 things that we have been able to help our agents and our clients to get into contracts. If you have any questions, you know where to reach us.
Awesome.
Good
So
stuff.
on the RPA and communicating, getting that started as quick as possible, one of the things you guys have to understand is it's a competitive market, right? And you're competing on the RPAs, and prices are going up. And so when you come down to needing an extension for a loan extension for a close of escrow, there's a good chance that seller no longer gives you the extension, and they're not obligated to.
Nope.
Because they could put that home back on the market and probably get more money. So it's going to be important that you're getting that stuff to them as quick as possible so you're meeting those deadlines. Todd?
Shelly, I just wanted to ask, when you say pre-approval, are you going to underwriting to get approval, or is this how far into underwriting are you guys going?
So for the most part, unless there's really credit concern or income, like if it's somebody who's just returned back to tip into the service industry and they've got a lot of tips, we are doing a desktop underwrite. That will be the standard just in our pre-approvals. It's credit, all docs, desktop underwrite. If we do need to send it in for what we would consider a TBD, we can do that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and if we're in this timeline, right, where we're kind of waiting and it's been a couple of weeks, there's nothing wrong with us going through that process.
Well, I
to get
think
it
it's
pre-approved.
important to help other people understand that if you send in a pre-approval letter, that's a big deal. And if you're not making a big deal out of that when you send an offer in and you have a pre-approval letter with it, you need to make a big deal of that with the listing agent, because it's not a pre-qual. It's not we think we can get him qualified. It's a pre-qual. I mean, it's an approval. Right, so make a big deal out of that. Make sure that's a part of your email or even the phone call that you make to the listing agent to say, hey, we're not pre-qualified, we're pre-approved, and so make sure you pass that on to your seller.
Right, and understand what that is.
Yeah, and some smarter listing agents will ask for the desktop underwriting approval if you've already gotten that with the approval. So I know we've talked about it before about having other agents ask for that, and it's personal information. But a letter from your lender saying, yeah, we've already got desktop underwriting approval, which means, 98% chance that it's going to go through?
Yes, data integrity really, but if we have all the documents for pay stubs and W-2s, there really shouldn't be an integrity issue on the income.
So I mean, that's pretty much the gold standard of having approval is the desktop
Well,
underwriting.
and Shelly will reach out and call the listing agent. That's a huge thing too.
Yeah,
right?
it's crazy to think when I talk to listing agents, they're like, you're the first lender that's called. I'm like, how is that even possible in today's market?
Yeah,
Like
they don't
every
care.
lender should be reaching out to the listing agent. I mean, that's an extra opportunity for business, but it's also an extra, you're putting your a good foot forward for your client who really has seen all the documentation and seen the information and can also then portray, hey, I can close in the timelines that you've listed out on that offer, whatever it may be, and getting it closed within the contract timeframe.
That makes sense for the lender too, because the lender's income is based on those people finding a property as well and getting put into contract.
Nobody is
And
paying
they're
for
actually
that.
putting a lot of faith in the agent to go out there and be able to negotiate and put that together. So anytime the lender can partner with you to help that, that's probably a good thing. Appraisals, you mentioned appraisals in there.
Yes.
Are you seeing a lot of low appraisals today?
I feel like the last couple of weeks has been that it started off really being just our VA appraisals, which, you know, those are hit or miss, whether it was this market or the market before. But I am seeing, what we're really seeing is when there is a addendum or maybe the offer being submitted with X amount over appraised value that the buyer is going to commit to paying. I am unfortunately seeing that some of the values are coming in at that X amount that they are willing to pay over, and they're not stretching up to the contract amount, the actual sales price amount, which is, you know, then we have to go backwards, send them in the documentation for resubmissions. And that's not happening across the board, but I do feel like that's a little bit of a trigger in some cases that the appraiser is.
Are you seeing
that.
most contracts that come to you, is there something in the contract stating that the buyer will pay more than the appraised value?
I would say today it's closer to like 60%, 60 to 70% that there is some negotiation around value.
Okay, and so the reason I ask these questions is because we're seeing an increase in issues with the writing of these things and people asking or the buyer committing to pay X number of dollars above appraised value. It's very important that that is written properly, because most of the time when it's written, it can be taken two different ways. One, that the buyer is willing to pay $5,000 more up to the purchase price, right? And the other is saying that the seller agrees to accept whatever the appraisal is plus the X number of dollars, 5, 10, whatever they agree to. And that isn't the case necessarily. So it's based on who's reading it and what side of the transaction you're on, which is going to create a lot of problems and issues. So I have some reservations about doing it. I get why people are doing it in this market. So if you are, to make sure that you're getting with the broker to get the right verbiage and make sure it's being done properly. And if you're representing a seller, make sure you're showing the broker too, because we may want to put together a counter to clarify it so that there's no things. And then what Shelly just said is kind of shocking to me too. So let's just say that you write an offer on a property and you say that this buyer's willing to pay, let's just say $8,000 over appraised value. You're saying that a lot of the appraisals are coming in $8,000 below the purchase price,
Right.
and so the buyer's committing to pay that $8,000. They're paying the purchase price, but it's actually costing that buyer more money.
Yeah, they could have got it rolled in the loan. Imagine
Yeah.
that.
Right, and
Or
so
the- yeah.
I had a phone call yesterday, and it's very interesting. This is from a very experienced agent, and she said, so in additional terms, the buyer has agreed to pay X number of dollars if the appraisal comes in low. And she said, if my seller signs this, does that negate the paragraph in the contract that says if the appraisal does not come in where it's supposed to, that now we can renegotiate? Well, additionally, traditionally, additional terms would override that. But she didn't want to commit her seller, just in case the appraisal came in $20,000 low.
Yeah, but see,
So is it a commitment? Does the seller have to take that if he signs that?
based on the conversation with our attorney, the answer is no, it does not negate that. And the reason being is just saying what the buyer's willing to contribute towards. So like the pre-negotiation to the thing there. There's a lot of things that need to be covered in there, and by just changing one item in there, you're not protecting everyone involved. And it is our responsibility to be fair and honest with everybody in the transaction. And so if you're writing something thinking, well, if they don't counter me, we're going to get them on this, that's wrong. You know, that's wrong,
Well,
and that's an ethics violation for sure.
absolutely.
And you probably could lose your license over that. And I was talking with Chris, and I've heard rumor of, and I think he's looking to see if it's true, that people have actually lost their license over this appraisal type issue in the past because you're not writing clear contracts and you're not communicating clearly. So,
Let me just add to that. I think agents have gotten lazy in using this escalation clause.
We're not allowed to.
Don't use- it's not called an
not
escalation
clause. The same $5,000 above appraisal. y'all know what the value of the property is. Y'all know how to get the value of the property. Appraisers are not some genie in a bottle that have no, they just pull the numbers out of their damn hat. They go to the same data that we have available to us. And you know if a house is worth $350,000, or if it's worth $300,000. If it's worth $350,000 and they're willing to go $5,000 above that, then damn it, write it for $355,000. You don't have to say appraised value plus $5,000. That's ridiculous. Write it for $355,000. Put down the number that your buyer wants to pay for it so that everybody is all on the same damn page, and you're not hoping that the appraiser is going to come to 352 and it bumps it up, or down to 2 or 320 and you're only paying 325. Write the damn number, because it's unfair to your buyer, it's unfair to the seller, and it's causing this huge issue, my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it takes the fact off of actually challenging the appraisal. You're just starting to bicker between agents and clients to see who's going to take the loss on the appraisal instead of finding comps and stuff to justify that value and working through that. Nick had a question. Does a paid-off solar lease add value on an appraisal?
We had the appraisers in. Can we forward that, the appraisal video that we did with the 2 appraisers? Because they said it depends.
Yeah.
Depends.
But it depends on the comps.
Are
It
they
also
attorneys?
depends on, right? Send the Dave Sanders one
Their
too.
attorneys appraise on the side.
I have found very little value in solar, and it's not going to be what you paid for it. It may be a few $1,000s, $5,000, whatever. It's not going to be the huge $100,000 or whatever you spent for the solar array that's sitting on top of your damn roof.
Well, I think it's like anything else. You pay $65,000 for a pool, but you don't
Yeah.
get $65,000 worth of credit when you go to sell
Right.
it 5 years down the road. So,
Yeah.
there is value there, yes, if you find the right buyer, but it's
Yeah.
probably not this
It
huge
helps.
number.
It's like any other addition. It helps the home sell quicker.
Maybe.
Doesn't necessarily help
Maybe.
it
Yeah.
increase the
There's
value.
still there's
People
still
don't
people
like-
out there that believe solar's a negative. It's
Yeah,
not
like
a
me.
positive. I think it's a positive. I went in thinking it was a big negative, but I've sold several properties and we've done the research to show that over a year's time that the owner of the property does save a significant amount of money. But you got to do the research on every single house because there's a lot of factors involved there.
But are you saving money if you paid extra money for the house to
Because
have the
of it?
solar, and it's going to take 3, 4,
So-
Well,
5 years?
I paid for the house
It
what the
depends.
appraiser said it was worth,
Right?
plus $5,000.
So the neat thing about this topic is this. We record all our meetings, all our trainings, not all of them, but the majority of our trainings, and we all upload them up to our YouTube channel. And Beta just posted in there the link to the appraiser one. So
That's cool.
it was
Beta.
that was a great conversation between Shelly and the appraisers. It was put on in the Southwest office, and it's an opportunity to go back and actually hear from the appraisers what's
Yeah.
going on. So
Yeah.
you can always go to our YouTube channel and look up that kind of stuff. But thanks for posting that, Beta.
Can I go back to appraisals for just a second?
Sure.
So I don't know how many of you saw this. It came across the email late last night, or late yesterday afternoon, from Nevada Realtors, from Crystal Keegan, who is the NVR Legal Information Attorney. And the question was, in order to present a more competitive offer, my buyer wants to waive the appraisal contingency provided for in the standard realtor contract. What do I do? And her response was this: many offers are coming in way above asking price and homes aren't appraising accordingly. And then in big bold print she puts, waiving appraisal contingencies is not recommended. It is risky business. And she said it's important that you make your client understand paying above the appraised price is extremely risky for those financing a home purchase.
That's right.
And she goes on to say, document in your file that you've advised your client as such.
And the appraisers that I've talked to, they think themselves as,
God.
well, not only God, but someone of reason, right?
No.
Yeah.
Because they're uninterested, they're doing just the numbers, they're just putting their value on, you don't think so?
No, they are not uninterested. They are covering their ass every time, every chance they get.
Well, they have to be
If they were a
careful, right?
third disinterested party like they truly should be, then I think you would see different numbers coming out on our.
But they're supposed to give you what the numbers say.
They're supposed to.
Well, they're trying to
I agree.
justify a value, right?
But
So-
I mean, the perfect example is you put in an offer at 300,000 and you say you'll pay 5,000 over
It's
appraisal.
295.
And the appraisal comes in at 295. I mean,
Yeah.
really, is the appraiser so good that it came in at 295, not 294.5 or 297.3?
And they have a 5% fudge factor.
Right, I mean, it's amazing.
How many times did it just come in right on value?
Yeah, but
You know,
here's a real issue. It's still part of the business,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We still have to deal with it. We can all have our opinion of whether they're doing a great job, a bad job, whatever. Everybody has an opinion, that's great, but it doesn't help your clients. So you got to put aside your opinion and you've got to look at the numbers. If you've got a 355 value, get something in writing that you told your client that it was probably going to go at 355. If they want to pay 10,000 over and that's what they want to do, that's up to them. But as the attorney has said, get something in writing, put it in your file that says, I told them it was worth 355. They were willing to pay 365.
The interesting thing is this is a product of our market.
Yep.
What we're seeing today. And so this too shall pass. But right now, this is a hot topic and a hot thing going on in offers. So just be really, really careful. And please consult with one of the brokers. That's what we're here for. And we'd much rather put the timeline up front so we don't have to deal with all the turmoil on the back end because it's a lot worse on the backside. So,
Or as the attorney says, we've been through this. It's 2006 all over again.
yeah.
We've been here before.
We got a
been
question here from Linda.
I like it.
Oh, want me to read it?
Go ahead.
I don't know how to read, but let's see. How about this on the counter? Seller reserves the right to accept or reject appraisal value below the purchase price and may cancel escrow based on this.
It's already in there.
It's already in the contract. You're just
It's-
restating what the contract says.
Yeah, it is, but it's not. It doesn't give the seller the right to cancel in the contract. So this would give the seller the right to cancel if it came in low. But
Well, the seller
they-
still has the right to say, I won't accept that price.
Correct,
And
and
then
then the
that
buyer can
forces
cancel.
the buyer to cancel.
Correct.
So you're right, you can't, the seller doesn't have a right anywhere in the contract to cancel, but they can make decisions that would probably cause the buyer to either pay the difference in cash or cancel.
yeah, and
Right.
Vonna just posted here. We actually had a conversation with our attorney yesterday, and he's going to be writing up some verbiage that we can use to make sure that we're covering both on when we're putting in an offer and when we're countering for the seller. So that will be good. So let's move into communication. So many of you know we have a signature real estate app built for communication. It's been launched and we've been inviting agents gradually as we've into the thing. I think we've got probably close to 200 on the app now. It seems to be working good. How was your guys' experience?
I love it.
Love it?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to keep all my, you said it a month or so ago, it takes all the noise out of the business.
It does.
It literally just puts all of my business in one place and I don't have to sift through the Lowe's commercials and all the stuff in my inbox. I mean, I probably get, no matter how much time I spend trying to clean my inbox and unsubscribing and trying to, I get people who sign me up for every newsletter in the world and so, yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Chippendales in my inbox yesterday, thanks to the Syncagrani team. Thanks, guys.
I want to thank whoever set me up with another company on their website, so I started getting properties. Like, this is not. That's why I don't check the email. Ralph loves the app. He got signed up. He was in the academy. I love the app because it has put everything in one place for me, and I'm looped into conversations that I don't necessarily have to participate in, but I can stay abreast of what's happening, especially like in property management. Shelly's in it. We're about to bring on the rest of her team into it as soon as we can do a training with them. But here's your opportunity. If you haven't been put into the app yet, signaturenv.com, and she will set you up and send you the invite. You have to have an invite to be put into the back end of our app. You can go and download it straight from the App Store or the Google Play Store, but you have to have login credentials, and the only way to create that is actually through an invite. So we'd love to get you all on board. Also watch the text line today. If you're on the text thing that comes out, you got a reminder about the sales meeting. We'll send you a link there too, so you can invite yourself basically into the app. So if you're not on the app and you want to be, text SREG to 725-527-7604, and that'll go out later today. So We'd love to get you all on there. We made a decision not to just send out a blanket invite because I want to make sure that people are expecting it and that you're going to register into it and then you'll find it of use. It's the best way to communicate with me. We'll have multiple trainings coming up on it. Teams are now on it. Teams are running more efficiently. It's a great way to get your answers and your questions answered by any of the brokers. It's a great way to communicate with the office staff. Everybody's on it and doing well.
So once you're on the app, can I then, or agents can then invite their vendor, like their lender, title person, or their clients?
You can invite your
Yeah.
clients, right? It is possible to invite a lender and that type of stuff. The difference here is Shelly and her team are going to be trained to work with us on the app and go through the stuff. If you're just inviting somebody that doesn't work continuously on it and doesn't adapt to it, it's not a great mode of communication for a lender to work or a title company to work on a one-off transaction, to have to log into something to communicate with you. They're still going to like to go through their stuff. Why it's working so well with us is because if we all commit to use it, we're all on the same platform, and then it works. Because I get messages sometimes through Facebook Messenger, Instagram, text message, email,
Or me, whatever the heck that is.
all kinds of stuff. And,
Parlor.
and all those kinds of things it's cool and a great way to communicate, but you're not going to get as quick a response if you're using those kinds of things, because I'm not in that stuff all the time. And like Todd said, it's noise. And I know when I get a notification in the app, it has to do with business, has to do with you guys, and I'm quicker to respond.
Well, and I will say this, I did text Brandon Sunday afternoon on the app, and I probably wouldn't have heard back from him until Monday, maybe Tuesday. Instantaneously, as soon as he read it, immediately I got a response.
You're
Good
welcome.
on ya.
Are clients
You're
using
welcome.
it now? Or?
Clients can use it. You guys as agents are able to, in the top right corner, there's a plus button, you can invite a client into it. I would have a discussion with them on that it's coming so that they download it, they set it up, and you can run your entire transaction through it, right down to sending for e-signature. And then it keeps your entire file there, so it's very easy for your transaction coordinator or you to send it over to SkySlope to put it all in there. So,
I signed my first document.
and
through there
Linda
yesterday.
says SkySlope is better transactionally.
Yeah.
SkySlope is a file thing. It's not a communication thing. The communication between you and your client where you're doing through email and text messaging, we're saying move that into the app. It's one place. You have a chain that's all there and you always can go back to it. But yes, your file's still going to SkySlope because that's where compliance and everything else is done. But you can create folders and everything else in the app. And like I said, we're going to have some great training on it, and so that you guys can start to use it. But the first step is actually to get you on there and to start sending some messages, and then we'll show you how to really use it. So, but watch for your invite coming through the text line, or send an email to Haley at Signature NV, and we'll get you set up. But that brings me into broker communications. So one of the issues we've been having, Tom, right, is the communications with brokers.
Yeah.
Want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, look, and it's sort of a touchy subject, but not really. If you have an issue.
Like
right?
jumbo shrimp.
Right. If you have an issue with something that's happening, be 100% transparent to us. You're not going to get in trouble for telling us the truth. What you're going to do is you're going to get in trouble if you told us 2/3 of the truth, or you just blatantly lied to us, because we can't help fix the situation that you're calling us on if you haven't told us what's really happening. You may have an issue with another agent and you're going off the reservation, and if you don't communicate that to us by telling us the truth, we can't help fix the whole situation, bring you back on the reservation, give you the training that you may need, or the fixing the issue by knowing what's going to happen. Because here's what happens. You tell me 2/3 of the story, or even blatantly fudge some of the stuff. I then go to the other agent, right, to talk to them about it, and they give me their side of the story, and they don't match. Now, even if you tell us the truth, someone's going to be fudging it. Your story's going to be here, and their story's going to be like over here. So it's up to us to figure it out, what's actually happening. And we go on the basis that you're telling us the truth, and then we find out that you're not, it's hard for us to be able to completely back you because you lied to us. So don't lie. Tell the whole story. It's okay. We get it. We have all made mistakes, but you compound.
be honest about it.
Right. You compound the
Not
mistake
Janet.
by not telling us what really happened.
We're on your
Yeah.
side is what he's really
Right.
trying to get to. And the fact of the matter is the quicker you come clean with the whole thing, and we all do mess up
Yeah.
from time to time, and we can all do things a little bit better, but it's our job to help you through that process. The other thing is, let us know the instant you think that there's about to be a problem, get us involved, because most issues go away with proper communication, and things escalate when you don't communicate with people. So,
Yeah.
and then I think Janet says, I will make it very clear I got your back, lie to me, and then, well, hammer.
Yeah, and don't let it fester, right? Because we have a story, we get a situation and we find out this has been going on for 2 weeks. And it's like, oh my God, because 2 weeks of festering is 2 weeks of the other side getting more and more pissed off, you getting more and more pissed off, and all of a sudden I've got 2 brick walls that won't move anywhere. And you're both doing it because you're both being stubborn. So the sooner we get involved, the less structured everybody's going to be in their stance.
I think it's important for our agents to understand that, hey, we got your back. Like, our job is to make sure that we protect you and your clients at the highest level. And if you don't have the confidence in us to come to us with the truth so that we can help with that, then we got to talk about that, because I mean, that's what we do for a living. That's why we're your brokers, because we're here to protect you. Now, as Wanda pointed out, if you lie to us, it makes it much more difficult to protect you. We're never going to turn you in short of maybe embezzling money or something. Well, like, there's certain things that we have to, but I mean, when it's just a transactional issue that's probably something fairly easy to resolve, we got to know about it. We got to come in and talk about it. We got to know the whole story, not just the part you want us to hear. Even the parts you're embarrassed about, we have to hear about it so that we can go to the other side. Here's what you have to understand. If we know 2/3 of it and 1/3 of it you're embarrassed about, we don't know about that, and we go to the other side, we're going to have a certain approach. But if we knew the whole story, we probably have a different approach. And the different approach will get it resolved a lot faster. So just come in, be honest, tell us everything that we need to know so that we can go to bat for you. And we will. We'll go to bat for you. That's our job.
Same team.
Yeah.
On the
Because
same
it's that
team.
third that you didn't tell us, that the other side automatically focuses on and hammers all the way
Well,
home
it
to
immediately
us.
builds the
Yeah.
wall.
Right.
It's hard to get past that wall once that's happened.
And we bring stuff up like this because we've had an issue, obviously, and so we don't like to deal with that stuff. We are on your side. There's plenty of stuff for everyone to do. We don't need to create more issues. But let's go into, because I think we beat that up.
Yeah.
And we got you. We allowed you to vent.
Yeah.
And thanks for
Answer.
translating
Are you good?
that.
Are you
Yeah,
good?
Yeah, just don't lie.
Just
Just don't lie. We're all
All
the
right,
same team.
so let's go into some March sales stats. You know, every month they come out, and we've got some numbers. You saw some numbers. So one of the things that I wanted to point out, the median home price increased 13% over the past year. The median now is 363.
Yeah, the market's on fire.
That's crazy, right?
Crazy. I mean, when I took it over, it was like
Running out of fuel.
315, right? It was like 315 last year at this time, when I was president.
We appreciate your hard work.
Yeah.
raising
Way to bring it
the
up.
median
50 grand
price.
is all my.
You're the
it
man.
was.
Yeah.
I had
This,
Absolutely.
this presidency is all the success of
Brandon?
the past president.
Brandon, you absolutely have
Right?
the target now for next year. You gotta
Yeah.
get it more than $50,000.
Well, and the interesting thing you said to me this morning is you felt like it was starting to slow or change a little bit. You could just kind of sense it a little, right? And
Hey,
so-
wait, that wasn't public knowledge. Why are you
Well,
sharing?
no, I'm just telling you this because this is an interesting thing. So currently we have under 1 month of supply, but in March it was a slight increase of available homes listed. Just a
Yes.
slight increase. It's not. It's interesting that you're starting to feel
It's
it.
not
when
significant,
No.
but
No.
yeah.
And when we continue to keep selling everything we put on the market new, plus a little bit of the old stuff that's been on there. So it's
Well,
just
the
craziness.
market's catching up to that old stuff, right?
Well,
Like they've
we'll
listed it
see.
well up here,
I
and the
mean,
market's
the fuel, we
catching up.
keep burning some of the reserve fuel in the fire.
Yeah, that
But-
wood that's
but
really
we're starting to get
hard.
a little bit of reserve. So,
Smaller.
but it's a tremendous opportunity for sellers to sell right now. It's
Still.
a huge sellers market.
Absolutely.
and
Huge.
hence some of the
Huge.
issues. But what are some of the other stats you got there?
Oh, we went through most of them.
We did?
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe you guys.
Well, that was a
did.
great segment.
You know, I mean,
Got a lot of highlighted stuff
yeah,
there.
new
Come on.
listings was 3,566, which is 18% more than last month, but just a smidge under what it was back in 2020 when I was there.
Living the now, Tom.
responsibility
You
for
know,
the whole
and we
market.
sold 3,726, right? So we sold everything that we listed, plus a couple hundred of our reserve homes. And, you know, it's you got a list. If you're listing, you've got money in the bank. If you're working with a buyer's agent, or working with a buyer, you're,
Struggling.
having to compete for a very limited supply of homes available.
So what I said earlier is I feel like personally that the frenzy, the buyer frenzy is starting to slow down. I don't see the $20,000 over list price anymore. I'm seeing 5,000, I'm seeing 8,000, I'm seeing much smaller numbers. I'm seeing buyers being less willing to do some crazy thing to get into a house. And so I feel like the frenzy will start is slowing down. And if we're getting 18% more inventory each month, the mathematicians out there, Thomas, help me out here. If we're getting 18% more inventory each month throughout the rest of the year, where will we be at the end of the year?
Well, we'll still be where we're at right now because we're selling all of those, the additional inventory,
Well, I think
plus a little bit.
you
more
don't
reserve.
understand compounding inventory.
Yeah.
See, it will go up and it will go up and it will
We'll
go
see.
up.
We don't have.
It's got to
money
change.
sales.
It's going to change over time. It is going to shift. It's just
Yeah.
when, right? But the good news is this: it said we're on pace to sell more homes this year than last year,
Yes.
even though we have strong demand and tight supply. So don't sit home and think, well, it's hopeless for me to be able to sell anything because it's tough out there. It is tough, and you have to work hard to get a buyer into a home. But there is opportunity. There's still over 3,000 sales a month, which is over
Well,
6,000
almost 4,000,
paychecks.
right?
Yeah,
3,900. That's a lot.
3726.
So 3726 all.
Which is
almost-
30% more than we did last month, and 35% more than we did last year in March.
Like
Remember, that was the
7,400
beginning of the-
paychecks.
Right, we
Yeah,
were
that was
saying the
beginning
same
of the-
thing last
yeah,
year, right?
yeah.
Oh, the world's falling apart and we're not gonna
Yeah.
be able to sell any homes, and then boom. flip of
There
the
it is.
switch, and we-
There it is. So,
Best year ever.
all right, Janet, you have some more stuff. I know you had something with a rent back that you wanted to talk about.
Okay, but well,
Yeah.
you interpreted it as a rent back. That wasn't the interpretation. This is kind of, I had one
Tomato, tomato.
view, and now it's become multifaceted. So here's the situation. So the seller asked for 4 days to stay in the property
Rent back.
and puts $1,000 in escrow in case they damage anything when they move their furniture out. and all
Security
that
deposit.
stuff. So they've moved out. The seller's agent goes over there. Everything's packed up. There are no boxes left. There's nothing in the cabinets. There's nothing. One seller is upstairs vacuuming. The other seller's downstairs mopping the kitchen floor because contract does say that you're to leave the property broom clean. So buyer's agent goes over there after listing agent has already left and says, the place is filthy and we want $300 for a professional cleaning crew to come in. Seller's agent talks to their seller and they say no. Contract said broom clean and we left it broom clean. Seller's agent sends over buyer's agent sends over a list that says there was dust on the ceiling fans. There were fingerprints on a window. There were a few crumbs in one cabinet, and there was a burn
Wow.
spot in the oven. And seller's agent says, I've talked to my seller. She left it broom clean per the contract. And buyer's agent says, well, then your seller can say goodbye to the $1,000 sitting in escrow. So, where do you go from here?
Which means nobody's getting $1,000 because they're not going to sign off on it.
Exactly.
Hence the problem with the rent
Rent
back.
back
Yep.
or security
Because people
deposit.
think all of a sudden it's no longer the close of escrow normal deal, broom clean, come in, we understand that people just moved out.
Yeah, there's two issues here. Yes, the contract does say broom swept, and we are seeing that quite often where the buyer comes in and expected to be immaculately,
Immaculate.
professionally cleaned. but that's not the agreement based on the purchase agreement
It
unless
was
something
not
else was
written in the
agreed
purchase
upon,
agreement.
right?
Right.
And then the other issue is the rent backs, and we're seeing more of this because of the competitiveness of the offers and stuff. They're actually letting the sellers, a lot of people are letting the sellers stay in there rent-free for a period of time
Which was the case.
to entice that.
So
But
they
it-
can get their offer accepted.
so they can get their offer accepted.
Yeah.
And my thing is this, when you look at it, and I know Informs just put out some changes to the rent back agreement or the possession.
Post-possession
Post-possession,
addendum.
right?
I'm teaching a class on that this month, by the way.
Yeah, and so you might want to attend this because this is kind of, if you're going to do these at all, you probably should go through this class and understand it. But they've changed a lot. You do not have to put the money in escrow. You can give it to the buyer or another party or that. And to me, my thought process is to give it to the buyer so that it's treated like a security deposit and that they have to return it or have an itemization within that 30-day period. And I don't know if this is all that, and I'm going to check with Dave Sanders, our attorney, on it, but the fact of the matter is, if it is a rental and there is a security deposit, there are laws that basically dictate
Protect.
how that's supposed to be transmitted and broken down. So, and then if they don't return the full deposit, then your seller at that point, or the tenant at the point, has rights, and then they can deal with in small claims court or whatever.
Well,
But
what if it's not really a lease back? What if it's like, okay, we'll let you stay 4 days to get your money to get all your stuff out of there, rent a truck,
then why are you
etc.
putting a deposit down?
Yeah,
In case they do damage after close of
But,
escrow.
but that's all covered in the RPA.
Yeah.
You're supposed to leave it as is, and that buyer still has rights to any damages done by that seller. You don't have to create a lease type environment where you're putting in a deposit to
And
protect
that's-
us. And I'm not saying you shouldn't, but I'm saying also though, if you're that seller and you're staying in there and you put a deposit into escrow, you might as well just
Kiss it
figure
goodbye.
that a portion of that, at least 50% of that's probably gone.
Yeah.
Because you do need to get an agreement through both sides. And when doing these, you're extending the issues long past escrow that the agent's getting involved in, and it becomes really not our issue, which is sad.
So here's the sad part of the whole thing, and that is that most of these challenges and most of these demands coming from the buyers are really generated by the buyer's agent who went to the property and had an opinion, but isn't really the opinion of the buyer because they've never talked to the buyer. They just went after this extra money. So make sure that, I mean, because, you know, as we've talked, if this does ever get in front of a judge, if it ever does get somewhere where someone's going to make a legal opinion about it, I mean, if you've stepped over the bounds, you're likely to have to pay at some point, have to pay for that. So make sure that that's really what your buyer wants, first of all. I mean, let's let the buyers make that decision. Let's make sure that we're pointing out that it's a broom swept condition. And if you're going to do a post-possession, try to do one without a security deposit. That's what I do.
Right? There you
Yeah.
go.
Because I think it's a hassle.
And I believe in the RPA, there's a close of escrow plus how many days? Because back in the old days, we had close of escrow to be on this date and possession to happen 3 days after
It asks
the
you,
close of
it
escrow.
asks you when is possession,
Yeah.
and most people mark close of escrow.
Yeah.
Right.
You can put that in there, you don't need all the other stuff.
4 days, 5 days, up to 7 days.
Yeah, so you could use, that is the possession paragraph, and you could use, if you're only doing 4 or 5 days,
It was 4 days.
then you
Put it in
can
there.
absolutely use that section as a, you know, and it can be done with an addendum during the contract, so you find out towards the end that you need to
Possession
do
would be
it.
this, right?
Just an addendum that says, page whatever it is on the RPA, line whatever, possession to be, and change it there so that it's dictated inside the contract, rather than this whole new addendum, which some wannabe attorney writes up some language that now gets everybody in trouble. So use the contract to do that, because it'd be very simple.
And that post-possession also states in there now that it's only to be used for properties 60 days or under
They
of
changed that to
possession.
90 because of the VA.
90 days, sorry. So basically 90 days. So if you're doing any kind of a lease that's over that period, it needs to be done with a lease agreement.
It's a lease agreement.
So just so you know, there's certain parameters to use that thing, and Todd's got a class coming up, so make sure you're in that, because there's a lot of issues with that.
I
So-
would throw in there as well, if it is over 60 days and your buyer is being financed for owner occupancy, they have to occupy in 60 days, so just,
It is 60 days.
I thought it was
No,
90. They
it's
changed
60.
it to
It's
90.
60.
I-
We changed it from 30 to 60. It is a
Okay.
60-day deal, yeah.
Okay.
That's
Because of that,
right.
because
Yeah.
of that
Because of the-
stipulation.
yeah.
So, because they have to occupy that within the 60 days. So, all right, so one last thing.
I have one more thing I don't know.
Okay, two last things. We'll go to you, and then we're going to go to Tom for a quick legislative deal, so.
Okay, so I've never had it, so we all know when we're doing a net sheet, the seller pays for title insurance. And the seller pays for title insurance to ensure that the buyer is getting clear title to the property. So I have this situation where the seller refuses to pay for title insurance because he and his family are the only ones that have owned this property from the time that it was built. There are no liens, there's no anything, and he wants to be shown in the law, and he quoted NRS 645, where it says he has to pay for title insurance.
It doesn't, but it does,
Exactly.
but it does say in the RPA
Yeah.
that he guarantees free and clear title, and it does say in the RPA that the seller agrees to pay, or the buyer agrees to pay for an owner's policy. So if he signed the RPA, he's already agreed to it. It's not law, it's customary that the seller pays for an owner's policy, and the buyer, if they're getting a loan,
Lender's
pays for a
policy.
lender's policy. It's
exactly.
just customary, but it is a negotiable item in the RPA, and that should have been a discussion during the period of time of the signing of that contract.
And
Right.
he's refusing to pay at this point.
But
Well,
he
that's
signed
Should
it.
have been, yeah,
He's in
exactly.
violation of the RPA.
Yeah, he's basically,
So
Defaulting.
ultimately, in the end, if it goes all the way to the end and he doesn't close because he won't do it and the buyer wants it done, then he's violated the contract, and now the buyer has a right to sue him. I mean,
Yep.
nobody can go over to the guy's house and hold a gun to his head and make him pay
Or
it.
the contract
Just-
should have been explained, which I'm not saying this is the case in this situation, but I'm seeing more and more and more that these sellers agents who are getting, 15 offers are going, okay, here's what this says this, and they're hitting the highlights and they're not explaining in detail what each thing is, what each cost is, and you need to be more thorough.
well, I would also like to see the net sheet that was done for him to see if it was included in the fee that he agreed to.
Exactly.
I mean, so if he agreed to it, then yes, it's not law, it's a contractual
Right.
obligation that he signed for.
I believe there's something in the listing agreement that also talks about the seller guarantees clear
Yeah, free and
title
clear title, yeah.
at close. So I mean, even in the listing agreement, so he's agreed to it twice now. And if it's on a net sheet and he signed the net sheet, if it's on a net sheet and he signed the net sheet, he's now agreed to it 3
But
times.
here's also the understanding of title insurance. Anybody can come back and put a claim in on that property. And the title insurance just guarantees that the title company or the title insurance company is gonna help fight that away.
Mitigate
Just
it, yeah.
because he's owned it and nobody else has, doesn't mean that nobody will ever come back with a claim on that property. So, title insurance is a good thing, and it protects him as well, because now they're not coming back after him and suing him
Exactly.
for it. It goes to the insurance company, and he can be done with it. So there's great value to that
So when he sells
seller
the
to have
house,
that.
he's done with the house.
It's the get out of jail free card, like
Right.
the SRPD, right?
Yeah.
Right, there you go. You get
That's
two per
You
deal.
get 2 per deal.
All right.
Special for March and April only.
Right. Tom?
So-
Let's talk some legislative
Yeah,
stuff.
so April 1st was the halfway mark in our legislative process. There is something, I want to make sure everybody understands that, let's go through how a bill becomes a law in Nevada. The bill
There's a
gets
song, isn't there?
Yeah,
Yes.
well, sort of.
I learned it in elementary school.
I know. But look, a bill gets introduced in the assembly, it then goes to a committee, the committee talks about it, it can be amended, it can be never brought up. There's a lot of ways to kill the bill in committee. But if it goes and it's presented in committee and then amended or done whatever or passed as is out of committee, it gotta go back to the assembly or senate, whatever house that it came out of. And that date for common passage of all the bills, which are either in the Senate or Assembly in committee, is April 9th. They have to be out of committee and then presented to the floor by April 20th. Right, so we're getting down to the nitty-gritty to where a lot of bills that we may have been worried about may never see the light of day again, because maybe they brought up in committee, we got a chance to argue about it, and it never gets out of committee, gets amended, or goes to the floor, and the floor doesn't vote it through, whatever that may be. But then we start all over again, because then it goes to the other house. So the assembly bills go to the Senate bills go over to the assembly, and they start all over again with having to be read upon the other floor's passage there or group, and then goes to that committee in the Senate or other houses or assembly.
Only the ones that made it out of committee by
Right.
the 9th
By the night.
By the
go
20th, by the 20th.
go to the two
They
different
go to the
floors,
other
and they
house
switch
and start
and they do it all over again. But it's not the ones that died.
No, the ones that
The
died,
ones that
died.
died. They're not going to get re-looked at again.
So it's really amazing to see that a bill even gets through both houses and goes through this whole thing. Because we got 2 times at the bite of the apple, and during that bite, there's several places that things can happen that can change stuff. So, it's very important that when we have call for actions, that we do the call for actions, because that's one of the times that we're taking a swipe to change that law, so that we don't have to fight it again and again.
And a call to action is basically a call to have you reach out
Yep.
to your representative.
Yep.
And it's done very easily because it's really a
yeah.
letter, you click on it. But one of the things that was interesting to me too, sitting on the RPAC committee this last time, I was like, they were talking about the call for actions that had gone out, and I'm like, I haven't gotten a call for action.
Yeah.
It's not in the app. That's why.
No, no, no,
on your
it's
email.
targeted.
No, it's targeted based on the zip code or the district you live in, right? And so you may not get it for everything, but it's because a certain representative may be pushing for this.
You live in that district.
And you live in that district, so we want to let them know
And you're a voter.
that this has potential
So it
issues
counts.
for property.
A living
homeowner
voter or
property
a dead
rights.
voter?
Yeah, so it's important. If you get it, it's important because you are been identified as a constituent of one of the bill's makers, and they're the ones that are pushing this bill, and you have some influence when you get that call for action to have them change their ways or help knead it, help mold it. I mean, there's, it's politics, so that, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the cloak of darkness up there. But it's,
Literally, the cloak.
I try to be nice about it, right?
So let me say this. So we on this talk a lot about legislative and a lot about the things that happen up in Carson City and a lot of that. I don't know that our agents really understand the importance of that, but let me give a real quick example. Like when I sat on one of those committees. I don't know. I'm terrible with time. It could have been last week, but it was probably a few years ago. And it was legislative, and that's what we were doing, was reviewing bills and talking about things. And the subject of sales tax on services, which would mean that like right now you pay sales tax on goods, but you don't pay it on labor, right? That's kind of the basis. Well, the government has had this idea that they should charge sales tax on service. So here, let me help you understand. The last commission check that you received, get your calculator out and do 8.125% of whatever that amount of money was, and that's how much you would have to pay to the government if we had a sales tax on services. Now, Rocky, who is our guy, right, down at the board.
Our lobbyist.
Our lobbyist.
Career in Nevada,
And
yeah.
all of the people, Vaughn is involved, Chris, everybody up here is involved. The work that they do every legislative session, right? Every single time these things come up, the work they do to squash just that one thing has literally saved every one of you thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. And so understand that when Tom talks like that, it confuses the hell out of you. It's important.
It's
You
supposed
need
to be
to try
confusing, though,
to
right?
understand it and participate at some level in it, because it's a big deal.
It is a big deal, and the easiest way to participate right off the bat is, number one, respond to the call to action.
Yeah, absolutely.
But number two, invest in RPAC.
Yep.
Vonna is confused too, and she even understands the process, Tom.
But here's the thing too, you would have been taxed on that, but then the talk, I remember during a certain period because it comes up every year, it was talk about your commission check goes to the brokerage first, that they would be taxed because it's coming into their brokerage. And so you wouldn't be paying on your commission, you'd be paying on it minus 8.125. But then when you get it, you're gonna have to pay your tax. That was one of the bills that was in there, so.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing though, because most of the stuff that they combat isn't necessarily to put more money in our agents' pockets. It's really about the protection of our industry and property rights. And we might look at something and go, well, I don't do property management, and all these bills have to do with tenant landlord stuff. Well, that directly affects
Everything.
everything that we do, no matter what, because if they make it harder for a landlord in this, more properties will be sold, which might be a good thing for our inventory, right?
For a
But
minute.
what that means is then there's less properties for rent, which means rents go up, and you think it's hard for a tenant now, it's gonna be very, very difficult. And the other thing is a lot of properties and a lot of our inventory through the downturn and everything was absorbed by who? Investors. And if you have a market that isn't set for investors, it could switch and flip the other way really easy. Whereas now we have such a buyer's market that you're holding listings for months or years. And that would be really bad for our industry as well. And our industry all around. So just know that they're looking at all aspects of these bills and how it affects everything to do with our industry. Yes, sometimes it affects our bottom line immediately. Sometimes it might affect the entire industry altogether. So a minimum of your fair share that's on your dues bill is a must. But if you can put more towards RPAC, you should. So, and then just be in the know. Pay attention to the sales meetings. We've got, you're on the legislative management team. Vaughn is on the legislative management team. They're reviewing these bills and they're bringing that stuff to us so that we're in the know. So it's important.
Yeah, so just know, if it starts in the House or the Assembly, it's gotta go to the Senate. If it starts in the Senate, it's gotta go back to the Assembly 2 times. Plus committee, there's all kinds of places to kill it. And it's that simple. So
Pay
don't be
attention to the
confused.
call to action.
Just know it's meant to be, that everybody has a voice and there's ability to get everybody's intake on a bill.
Well, did I do a good job talking
did.
as much
Made
as
it.
Chris? Did I
You're a
cut you
minute
guys
over.
off?
No,
Did we
you
do
did
good?
not. You were
All right,
inclusive.
so we all got a chance to talk, and we appreciate your guys' time today. Remember, send your email into Haley if you want to be part of the app, and watch your text messages because there'll be an invite sent out there too.
Send your homes into beta
Yes.
by
Yes.
Monday at noon, so they can be on the beginning of the sales meeting. I think that's actually a brilliant
be
idea.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let's
so
see
figure
how
about
that
5
works.
minutes before we'll start, hopefully showing the,
Showing some of that stuff. So
yeah.
We're actually getting to the point now where we're going to cut to commercial several times during the
Yep.
meeting, and we can run those things. Yeah.
this show brought to you by Tom's Shirt.
That's right.
Thanks, guys.
I wore a plain one today, what can I say?
Way to go, Peter.